Hi, my name is Stephanie, and this is a passage read for Feed by M.T. Henderson. And it starts on page 110. I sat there with my palms pressed into my forehead, thinking about Violet at home being smart. I would think about some conversation we were having where I was dumb. Like she was always reading things about how everything was dying and there was less air and everything was getting toxic. She told me about how things were getting really bad with some things in South America, but she couldn't really tell exactly how bad, because the news had been asked to be a little more positive. She said that it made her frightened to read all this kind of thing, about how people hated us for what we did. So one time I said to her that she should stop reading it because it was just depressing, so she was like, but I want to know what's going on. So I was like, then you should do something about it. It's a free country. You should do something. She was like, nothing's ever going to happen in a two-party system. She was like, da da da, nothing's ever going to change. Both parties are in the pocket of big business, da da da, all that. So I was like, you got to believe in the people. It's a democracy. We can change things. She was like, it's not a democracy. I hated it when she got like this because then she wasn't like herself. I mean, she wasn't like this playful person who drags me around the mall doing crazy shit. She was suddenly like those girls in school who sit underground and dress all in black with ribbing and get an iron fixture for their jaws, and they're like capitalist fools, propaganda tool, holding up both their hands, etc. When she said things like, it's not a democracy, suddenly I couldn't stand to be having this whole conversation. I was like, oh yeah? And she was like, it's not. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, no, it's not a democracy. And I was like, yes, it is. And she was like, no, it isn't. And I got sarcastic, so I was like, no, sure, it's all fascist, isn't it? We're all fascists. Then she was like, really gently, no, please, I'm not trying to be an asshole. It's not a democracy. I was like, then what is it? A republic. It's a republic. Why? Because we elect people to vote for us. That's my point. So why is it like that? Because if it was a democracy, everybody would have to decide about everything. I thought about that. We could have everybody vote, from the fees, instantaneous, then it would be a democracy. Except, she said, only about 73% of Americans have feeds. Oh, I said, yeah. And so I felt stupid. There's that many who don't? Then she told me, I didn't used to have a feed. I was like, what do you mean? She was quiet like she didn't want to chat. It was that kind of quiet. Then she went, we didn't have enough money when I was little, and my dad and mom didn't want me to have one. Holy shit. I got it when I was 7. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For not knowing. You know that so many people don't have them. No one with feeds thinks about it, she said. When you have the feed all your life, you're brought up to not think about things. Like them never telling you that it's a republic and not a democracy. It's something that makes me angry, what people don't know about these days. Because of the feed, we're raising a nation of idiots, ignorant, self-centered idiots. Suddenly she realized what she had said, that she just called me a self-centered, ignorant idiot. She stopped. She started stumbling all over her words, and she was like, I didn't mean, it's not really important, but just, I believe, and so on. I just sat there and watched her. I could tell I was liking to watch her trip up over her words while I was doing this angry face, so I didn't move my mouth or chat her or anything. I just sat, and she felt bad, and then she even chatted me, I'm sorry, which was bad because it showed that we both knew I was stupid. And then I looked away. I looked away, and she put her hand on my arm, which was the worst because it was the consolation prize. I really like this passage because it shows how people growing up with feeds like Titus don't realize what's happening in the world around him because he's controlled by the feed. And their whole argument about whether it's a democracy or a republic or a fascist country is so interesting because Titus thinks that he gets a say in what happens with his life and everyone else around him, but in reality, it's the corporate control that really has a say. It's the corporations who are controlling the feeds, which in turn control Titus and all of the other people in this dystopian society. And because Violet did not have the feed installed when she was a baby, she got it later in her childhood, she was exposed to life outside of a feed and knows what is really happening around her, especially because her father is very into studying about the past before the feed as well. And he has a really old school feed too. So Titus didn't even know that Violet didn't have one, which sheds this whole new light on who she was because he's so used to this silly, fun, spontaneous girl, but he doesn't really know that she's not like him at all, and that was showed at the beginning, back when he met her, because what caught his eye was that she was so different, but he didn't really know why. And this shows him finally that this is why she's different, because she was given a feed so late in her life. So she will see the world differently. And he doesn't like that it makes him feel stupid every time he has a conversation with her like this, but at the same time it intrigues him because it challenges his mind, and he's so used to not having to think for himself that she brings him to a point where he can start thinking for himself, and he's not sure how to take it, which is why he's so intrigued with her, but at the same time he hates that she makes him feel so stupid, and she wishes at the same time that he would be able to understand where she's coming from, because he's so used to having a feed and she is still working with how to function with it, especially because her feed is malfunctioning. So it's this whole dynamic that makes them such an interesting duo, but at the same time they can't really see eye to eye. So I think that's what keeps the characters so well rounded and the plot moving so well in this novel. And I would really suggest this book. I think it's phenomenal. It would be a great book to read, and I hope this passage shows that. So I hope you read it.